They say you can feel when something's about to go wrong. Like how the air gets heavy before a storm, or how a room goes quiet right before someone says something unforgivable. That's how I felt when the envelope slid under my office door. No return address, thick cream-colored paper, sealed with a dark red wax stamp that looked like it belonged in some Victorian mystery novel. I should have ignored it. Should have just kept working on the quarterly report that was already 3 weeks overdue. But curiosity's a persistent little devil, isn't it? So I opened it. Inside was a single, handwritten note. _Logan. You're invited to a private dinner. 8 p.m. sharp. No need to bring anything, just yourself. A. As in Ashley. My wife. My first thought? She was finally trying. After months of therapy appointments missed, awkward silences during dinner, and sorry, I'm just so tired, becoming her favorite bedtime phrase, maybe this was her way of reaching back across the gap between us. It had been a rough year. I took on more projects at work to keep myself from thinking too much. She took more trips for work and came home smelling like department store cologne I don't own. We were partners in logistics, not love. But still, I wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. I showed up at the restaurant early, which, if you ask anyone who knows me, is already suspicious behavior. A place called La Manette, tucked away behind an art gallery downtown. Dim lighting, white tablecloths, and the kind of menu that doesn't have prices. The kind of place people get engaged in. Or divorced. I straightened my jacket, ran a hand through my hair, and walked inside. The hostess looked up, gave a knowing smile. Mr. Grayson? I nodded. Right this way. I followed her through the maze of tables until she stopped near a booth in the far corner. That's when I saw them. Ashley, and a man I had never met, but had heard plenty about. Chase Donovan. The man with the too white smile. The one who always managed to pop up in Ashley's stories about work. The guy who just gets her, apparently more than I ever could. He stood when he saw me, extended his hand like this was a business meeting. Logan, great to finally meet you. Ashley didn't stand. She didn't even look guilty. Just smiled like this was a casual lunch with friends and not the scene of a slow-motion car crash. I didn't shake his hand. I looked at her. You invited me to dinner. She nodded. I did. Just wasn't expecting company. That was the moment something shifted. Like I was standing on a frozen lake and the ice gave a long, deep crack. Chase smiled and gestured to the empty seat. Sit down, Logan. Let's talk like men. I looked at Ashley again. Her eyes didn't flinch. And suddenly, I wasn't hungry anymore. I didn't sit. Not right away. Chase was already reaching for the wine bottle between them, pouring himself a glass like he paid the rent on the entire restaurant. Ashley sipped hers without offering me any. Nice touch. You're probably wondering why we asked you here, Chase said with that polished smirk energy, like the kind of guy who reads his own quotes on LinkedIn for motivation. No, I said flatly. I already know. I'm just curious how far the circus act goes. Ashley set down her glass, folded her hands like we were in couples therapy instead of a public betrayal exhibit. Logan, I didn't want to do this at home. I thought, this might be easier. Neutral ground. Neutral ground. Sure. Like inviting a man to a knife fight and telling him the menu is gluten-free. Chase leaned in, elbows on the table. Look, man, Ashley deserves to be happy. And from everything I've heard, you haven't exactly been bringing much joy to the table. I almost laughed. That's so? She says you've been distant. Cold. Always working. And she says this to you? Over what, PowerPoint presentations and espresso? Ashley flinched. Barely. But it was there. Like the last flicker of shame hadn't packed its bags yet. This wasn't meant to hurt you, she offered weakly. Just meant to humiliate me in a boutique restaurant with basil-scented air and overpriced candles? Don't worry, babe. Nailed it. Chase stood. Too fast. He was trying to intimidate me, but I'd seen scarier things in a mirror at 2 a.m. on the night she didn't come home. You've got 2 choices, Logan, he said. Leave quietly. Or face this like a man. I looked at him, looked at Ashley. My jaw tightened. My hands were still in my pockets, clenched so hard the fabric started to tear. I didn't respond right away. I let the silence stretch. Then I smiled. One of those slow, dangerous smiles that says you really should have picked a different target. I stepped forward, leaned close to him. If I ever decide to face this like a man, Chase, you're not walking out of here with that grin still attached. His jaw tensed. Ashley rose, placing a hand between us like she was still some sort of referee in a marriage she'd already left. Logan, please. Just leave. For once, Don't make this harder than it has to be. Harder? She had no idea. I turned on my heel and walked out, not because they told me to, but because I knew something they didn't. This was their moment of triumph. But every show ends. And curtain call? That would belong to me. I drove home with both hands on the wheel and both eyes on the road, but my mind was off-roading through every memory I could no longer trust. I didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't even turn on the radio. I just sat in silence, letting my thoughts chew through me like termites in a hollow beam. The betrayal wasn't fresh. It was just official. Like getting the news your house is condemned, even though you've already been living under a collapsing roof. When I stepped into the house, it didn't feel like mine. It felt like I was walking into a set, carefully staged, cleaned, and curated by someone who knew what they were hiding. Her perfume lingered in the hallway. But there was something else. A second scent. Musky. Arrogant. Not mine. I dropped my keys in the dish and walked straight to our bedroom, no hesitation, just instinct. The bed was made. Perfectly. Hospital corners and all. Ashley never made the bed like that. Not for me. I sat down on the edge, palms still red from clenching the steering wheel too hard. The scene at the restaurant replayed in my mind. His smug voice. Her blank stare. My own reflection in the wine glass, stupid, stunned, stitched together with denial. I wasn't stunned anymore. I got up and started looking. Not because I was still suspicious. Because now I wanted proof. Something I could hold. Something undeniable. I started with the closet. Nothing unusual until I saw them. A pair of heels. Red. Tall. Expensive. Never seen them before in my life. Ashley hadn't worn heels around me in months. Said they made her feet ache. Said I wasn't tall enough for them to matter. Interesting. Next stop, her vanity. She kept her tablet there. Never locked it. Thought I was too trusting or too dumb to snoop. She was wrong. I opened it, swiped up, and waited. Photos. That's when the air got thinner. The first image? Her. Hotel mirror. Lace and lies. Timestamp. Last Saturday. She told me she was in Sacramento. Baby shower for a coworker. That room? Not in Sacramento. I recognized the wallpaper. A boutique place across town. The one with the rooftop bar she claimed was too pretentious. Slide. More pictures. Her hand on his chest. His arm around her waist. Her smiling like she used to smile at me when we were still building dreams out of paychecks and coffee. My stomach twisted. Not from heartbreak. From clarity. I backed out of the gallery and opened her messages. I didn't have to scroll far. Chase. Last night was everything. She still has no clue. Ashley. Clueless. It's almost cute. Like watching a puppy chase traffic. That one landed hard. Not because it was cruel. Because it was honest. I put the tablet down. My hands were shaking, but not with grief. With calculation. This wasn't just betrayal. This was performance. And they thought I was still sitting in the front row, watching. They had no idea I'd stepped backstage. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I couldn't. Because I wouldn't. There's a strange kind of peace that comes with confirmation. When the guessing ends, and the facts stand naked in the room with you, there's no more anxiety. Just cold, measured thought. Ashley didn't come home. No apology. No lie about a flat tire or a late-night brainstorm with the team. Nothing. Radio silence. Like she assumed I'd just accept her disappearance as naturally as I'd once accepted her love. That told me everything I needed to know about who she thought I was. And just how wrong she was. The next morning, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, brushing my teeth like it was any other Tuesday. The reflection staring back wasn't shocked anymore. He wasn't sad. He was still. Stillness is dangerous when it's quiet on the outside and boiling underneath. After shaving, I opened my laptop and created a folder titled Exit Strategy. I didn't know yet what the plan was going to be, but I knew it wouldn't involve shouting or begging or breaking dishes. I wasn't about to throw a fit on the front lawn while she live-streamed it to Chase over FaceTime. No, mine would be the kind of ending they'd never see coming. I started with finances. Bank accounts. Joint cards. I wasn't a fool. When we got married, I kept my own savings, separate from our shared account. Ashley called it unromantic. I called it insurance. Turns out I was right to keep the policy. Over the next hour, I found 4 hotel charges in the past 2 months, all under Chase's name, billed through Ashley's corporate card. All at boutique hotels with bars she used to claim were too loud for her taste. I screenshotted everything. Labeled it. Dated it. I made copies of texts. Pulled metadata from photos. My desktop looked like the FBI was auditing a love triangle. At noon, she texted. Staying at Lacey's tonight. Don't wait up. We need to talk tomorrow. We need to talk. That phrase should come with a warning label. I didn't respond. Didn't even flinch. Just leaned back in my chair and looked out the window. The neighborhood kids were riding bikes in circles. One of them had a Spider-Man helmet that was way too big for his head. He looked ridiculous. But he was happy. Ignorance is undefeated. By that evening, I had drafted a list. Not a hit list, though Chase's name was written with slightly more pressure than the others. People who knew. Coworkers. Mutual friends. Her yoga instructor, the one who always called me Brian, even though my name is Logan. I went through her tagged photos and zoomed in on smiles that looked a little too complicit. It was becoming clearer by the minute. This wasn't a secret. It was an open secret. And I was the town idiot with a front row seat to his own humiliation. By midnight, I had 3 plans on paper. Plan A, lawyer. Quiet divorce. Get out with dignity. Plan B, lawyer. Messy divorce. Drag her through every legal puddle on the map. Plan C, not legal, not loud. Just satisfying. The next morning, she came home, wearing the same dress from 2 nights ago and that smirk that she once reserved for private jokes we used to share. I watched her from the kitchen as she tossed her keys in the bowl like nothing happened. Morning, she said casually, heading for the fridge. You slept at Lacey's? I asked without turning around. She paused. Yeah, she needed someone to talk to. She and her husband are going through stuff. Lacey's in Hawaii. Remember? Anniversary trip. She froze. It was beautiful. The tiniest crack in her mask. Then she turned, pulling out her acting chops. I meant Hannah. Did I say Lacey? Ugh. I'm tired, Logan. She wasn't tired. She was exposed. But like any trained liar, she pivoted before the guilt could land. Look, she said, arms crossed. I know you're mad. I get it. But we haven't been happy for a long time. Oh, is that what we're calling it now? I said, still stirring my coffee. What else would you call it? She asked, her voice rising just a hair. Dishonesty, I replied. Infidelity. But sure. Unhappiness sounds softer. Her eyes narrowed. You went through my stuff. I didn't confirm or deny. I just took a slow sip. While she said, laughing bitterly, you violated my privacy. And you violated our marriage. Let's not pretend we're on even ground. She stormed past me, heading to the bedroom, and I heard drawers opening, bags being unzipped. She was packing. We're going to talk later, she shouted from the hallway. But not like this. Not when you're being smug and cruel. I let her have the last word. For now. Because revenge doesn't speak in the heat of the moment. It waits. Patiently. Ashley didn't slam the door when she left. That would have required passion. Instead, she closed it behind her the way you close the door to a hotel room, like you'll be back later to collect whatever you forgot. She left with a suitcase, her laptop, and the same air of casual detachment that she'd worn for months. I didn't stop her. Didn't yell. Didn't even look out the window to watch her drive away. Because finally, I had time to work. That night, I opened a bottle of scotch I'd been saving for my birthday. Took a slow sip, opened my laptop, and renamed the folder from Exit Strategy to Curtain Call. If they were going to turn my life into a performance, then I was going to write the closing act. And it was going to bring the house down. Let me be clear, I wasn't after violence. I wasn't going to set Chase's car on fire or hack into Ashley's Instagram to post the receipts. That wasn't my style. No, I wanted something more elegant. Something precise. The goal wasn't to destroy her. The goal was to make her watch herself fall apart, piece by piece. First step, documentation. Always documentation. I started backing up everything. Her texts. Her photos. The hotel receipts. The work calendar that, funny enough, still marked me as her emergency contact, even though Chase was clearly on speed dial. Next, I reached out to Mark, a friend of mine from college, now a family law attorney with a reputation for playing chess while everyone else played checkers. He picked up on the second ring. Logan, thought you fell off the grid. I was on the grid, I said. Just didn't know I was being electrocuted. I gave him the short version. Marriage, infidelity, Mr. Protein Shake moving in on my territory. Mark didn't say much. Just asked one question. Do you want to win, or do you want to be right? That one landed. I want her to lose, I said. Good, he replied. Then let's stop talking and start building the case. Mark told me exactly what to do. Financial disclosures, asset tracing, building a timeline. He asked if there was any proof that Chase was benefiting financially from his relationship with Ashley. Not yet, I said. But give me a week. That weekend, I drove to Ashley's office during lunch hours, parked across the street with a pair of cheap sunglasses and an even cheaper sandwich, and watched. She came out around 12:45, laughing, her hand on Chase's arm. He opened the passenger door for her like he was auditioning for Boyfriend of the Year. They drove off in a company-leased car. Chase's name on the paperwork. Ashley in the passenger seat. Corporate policy violation? Probably. Documented with timestamps and photos? Absolutely. That was Exhibit A. Exhibit B came from a mutual friend, Marissa, who didn't know she was supplying evidence. Over coffee, she casually mentioned Ashley had invited her to a soft opening of Chase's side business, a high-end gym, complete with infrared saunas and espresso machines. Did she invest in it? I asked. Marissa nodded. Yeah. Said she used part of her bonus last year. Called it a passion project. Perfect. Now I had financial entanglement. Proof she was funneling shared income into Chase's business. Which meant, legally, I had a claim. Mark nearly whistled when I sent him the file. Logan, he said, you're about to turn this betrayal into a portfolio. And I wasn't done yet. Because it was time for Act 2, reputation. Ashley loved her image. The curated life. The influencer vibes, even if she wasn't technically an influencer. Everything about her screen presentation, right down to the way she arranged our bookshelf by color. She didn't know I still had access to her shared work cloud. Turns out, she'd been using it to send Chase company files, sales data, strategy slides. Some of it marked internal only. She trusted him that much. Foolish. I copied everything into a secure folder, timestamped it, and let it sit. Not because I was going to use it, yet, but because I needed leverage. Revenge is best served with a backup drive. Then came the final touch. I called her mother. Now, don't get me wrong, I didn't do it to shame her. Her mother was sharp, classy, and never liked me much. But she respected me. And more importantly, she adored Ashley's image of a perfect marriage. So I gave her the truth. Not in anger. Just facts. Simple, painful, factual. Thought you should know, I said. Your daughter's starting a new chapter. It's just that she forgot to finish the last one before beginning this one. Her mother was silent for a long time. Then she said, thank you for calling, Logan. That was all I needed. Ashley returned 3 days later, probably expecting a cold conversation or a key thrown at her head. What she got was silence. I didn't even look up from my laptop when she walked in. She dropped her purse on the counter. I think we need to talk, she said. We already did, I replied, still typing. She hesitated. Look, I know I made mistakes, but I also think we both contributed to this. I smiled. Not kindly. You're absolutely right. We both did. I contributed trust. You contributed chase. That one hit. Her face stiffened. She took a step closer. What happens now? I closed the laptop. Now, I said. Now we let the curtain fall. Ashley didn't like silence. She preferred noise, affirmations, arguments, applause. Silence, to her, meant disinterest. And nothing terrified her more than being ignored. So when I told her, now we let the curtain fall, and went back to typing, the silence that followed stretched like piano wire. Tight. Thin. Deadly. She hovered there for a beat, waiting for a fight I wouldn't give her. I didn't even offer eye contact. Just let her sit with it. Finally, she broke. What does that mean, Logan? Are you filing for divorce? I clicked my mouse a few times. Not quite. She folded her arms, posture shifting to defensive. Look, I get that you're angry, Elle. No. I cut in, finally looking up. You don't. You understand anger. You expect anger. That's what you're used to, someone screaming, throwing dishes, storming out. That makes you feel powerful. But this unsettles you. Because you don't know what I'm planning. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. I closed my laptop slowly and stood. I'm not throwing you out. Yet. But I've consulted a lawyer. I've compiled every receipt, every text, every charge you made on our joint account to support your boyfriend's startup. And the best part? You left a paper trail like a child with glitter glue. Logan. Let me finish, I said, calm but sharp. I also know you've been leaking confidential files to Chase. Those strategy decks you sent through the work cloud? I have them. With timestamps. With server records. You violated your NDA and your company's trust. The color drained from her face. You wouldn't, she said, trying for confidence. You wouldn't destroy my career. I raised an eyebrow. You destroyed a marriage and used company property to do it. All I did was save copies. She sat down on the edge of the bar stool, suddenly very aware that she'd walked into a minefield in Ballet Flats. But I haven't even, Logan, I haven't cheated in the legal sense, she said, almost proud of herself for hanging onto a technicality. We haven't slept together. I almost laughed. You think this is about what went on between the sheets? This isn't a church. This is court. She ran a hand through her hair, clearly stalling for time. Okay. Look, maybe I messed up, but stop. Don't do the maybe thing. You made choices. You wanted someone new. You're free to have him. But you don't get to keep the house, the narrative, and the moral high ground. Her eyes narrowed. So what's your plan? Humiliate me? Bleed me dry? No, I said, walking to the counter and grabbing a manila envelope. I slid it across to her. I'm giving you 2 options. She stared at it like it might bite. Option 1, I said, we go public. Your boss sees those documents. Your company lawyers get a tip about data breaches. Your name becomes synonymous with internal betrayal. Divorce gets messy. You lose your job, your credibility, and most likely, your charming boyfriend when the funding dries up. She flinched. Option 2, I continued. You sign this agreement. It's clean. It's quiet. You leave the house by next week. You waive any claim to spousal support. I keep the house, the assets, and in return, I don't burn everything you've touched. Her voice came out small. You already talked to someone about this? I nodded. 2 lawyers, a financial advisor, and a friend in your company's HR department. You'd be surprised how much people are willing to share when you ask the right way. She looked down at the envelope. Her fingers touched it, then recoiled. I need time. You've had months. This is me being generous. I didn't mean for it to go this far, Logan, she whispered. I felt forgotten. That part hurt. Not because it was true, but because it was her excuse. Her permission slip to blow up our lives. I was working, building something for us. You know how hard I fought to give you everything you said you wanted. I know, she said, tears threatening now. Too late for that, I replied. You don't get to cry your way out of this. She sat there, quiet, for a long moment. Then she opened the envelope. She read through it slowly, line by line. No tricks, no traps, just cold, negotiated surrender. I need a lawyer to review this, she said eventually. Of course, I said. Get whoever you want. But know this, if you try to play games, I open the vault. And I don't care how loud it gets. She nodded. Not because she agreed, but because she finally understood the ground had shifted. Ashley Grayson, the woman who once curated every angle of our lives, now sat cornered in the very house she tried to turn into a stage. And the man she thought would break? He'd built the trap, brick by brick. Ashley didn't sleep at the house after that night. She stayed somewhere else, maybe with Chase, maybe in a hotel. I didn't ask. I didn't care. The next few days passed like quiet victories. She sent over her lawyer's contact. I had mine speak with him. To my surprise, they didn't even push back much. I think she realized, somewhere in the fog of her unraveling, that she had no leverage left. She signed the agreement. I came home one evening to find a few boxes missing. Her closet half empty. Her perfume finally fading from the walls. She left her wedding ring on the nightstand, like that made it poetic. It didn't. I picked it up, turned it over in my hand. The inscription inside read, Always Us. Cute, timeless, and utterly hollow. I dropped it into the drawer, behind some old receipts, where it could sit like the relic it was. The truth? I wasn't grieving anymore. Not for her. Not for the life we had. I was sharpening something else. Chase Donovan made a fatal mistake. He underestimated how fast his world could collapse when someone cut the right wire. I waited until everything was finalized, papers signed, assets split, Ashley gone. Then I made one call. Not to HR. To the board of directors at Chase's startup. The gym. The one Ashley had funneled our marital funds into. I introduced myself as Logan Grayson, co-filer of a formal complaint. Shared proof of misappropriated investor dollars. Proof Ashley had laundered company time to fund his dream. Forwarded them the documents from her cloud. The financial entanglements. The photos. They didn't reply. But 3 days later, his gym's website went down. A week later, I heard from Marissa she'd seen Chase's car outside the building at 10 p.m. Parked while he argued with someone in a suit on the sidewalk. Loudly. Desperately. I smiled. Not because he was losing, but because he was doing it publicly. Just like he wanted me to. Ashley tried to reach out once. She didn't call, didn't text. She sent an email. One long, rambling monologue about how we used to be great, how she never meant to hurt anyone, how things got complicated. The subject line was, "Can we talk?" I replied with a single sentence, "You had the stage. I took the spotlight." She never wrote again. Mutual friends stopped inviting her to things. Her family knew the full story, minus the sordid details, just the facts, and they were disappointed. She went from golden girl to question mark in a matter of weeks. And Chase? Last I heard, he moved out of state. Something about restructuring and new beginnings. The startup didn't recover. Investors pulled out. One of them threatened legal action. None of it came from me. I didn't need to destroy them. I just needed to nudge the first domino. It's been 6 months. The house is quiet now, in a good way. My coffee tastes stronger. My sleep deeper. My weekends belong to me again. Not to errands. Not to pretending. Not to the slow burn of wondering where she really was. The best part? I didn't lose myself. I didn't scream. I didn't lose control. I didn't get revenge in a tabloid or a tantrum. I did it through patience. Through truth. Through silence. Some men go looking for justice like it's a sword to swing. Me? I sharpened mine in the dark and waited for the right moment to strike, not with violence, not with rage, but with precision. Ashley thought betrayal made her powerful. She forgot that some men don't break. Some men rebuild. And when they do, they don't just rise. They return fire.